Hello everyone, this is Gigs and I'll be presenting the results for the round 6 of the 2018 SpaceChem Tournament. This puzzle was originally created by Laylight and it's about problem separation. There are two tasks to handle, upscaling and downscaling, and each of these can be handled by a single Waldo, which is probably the easiest way to approach the level, but not necessarily the best way to get a good score. The metric used was symbols times half the bounders used, and so IE intended that only 2 bounders solution be competitive. He also added a sensor, which he hoped would be used to achieve interesting symbols reduction. I'm using the SpaceChem patch, which explains the bounder priority being indicated, and also the super speed, which I'll be using in a couple of solutions. First up we have Twistiest solution. It's the lowest symbols count of any solutions submitted, but as it uses 6 bounders, it did not score very well. Let's see what he does. So for the upscale, blue, with some help from red, will make a T-shaped osmium ring, which was a very popular shape. And then red will start and break up the sulfur ring in that way and make an L-shaped chain, which was very popular. And then cutting off the small sulfur rings and outputting them. So pretty efficient on symbols. A couple of things, interesting things to note. First up, let's see. Blue will be waiting on the sulfur sensor, which saves having a sync on red, and then red will use a simple 2 flip-flop counter to know when to go back to the main loop. Also, at this point, only one small sulfur ring gets outputted because this is our input psi, and so this structure stays in the reactor. Overall, very good solution. The only issue is that it used 6 bounders and so did not score very well. It scored 132 metric points, which was worth 3.5 points in the tournament. And also pretty fast, of course, with using 6 bounders. However, it could have been 2 cycles faster if you had this. Oh well, wouldn't have mattered anyway. So overall, very nice solution by Twisty. In 19th place we have McCrush with a 4 bounder solution. He has red doing the upscaling part with a simple 3 count flip-flop and making a T-shaped osmium ring. And then blue will do the downscaling with something very clever, I thought. He's cutting corners and bringing them over to be assembled into small sulfur rings. By cutting the corners and dropping that way, he always has something to grab here, and so he doesn't have to handle several different positions for the large sulfur ring to be grabbed. And the way he bonds it, he bonds the small sulfur rings, means there's always going to be a leftover which will be used to make the next one. And then a simple flip-flop counter to know when it's done. And overall, very clever algorithm, I thought. The issue is, of course, that since it's 4 bounders, it does not score very well. And also, one issue is that this counter here can be flattened. It's same thing, only now blue is 1 sync behind, so red has to start here, but it really does exactly the same thing, and it saves the symbol. Here we have Jaboka with the first 2 bounder solution. He has red doing most of the upscaling part, making a T-shaped osmium ring and using the osmium sensor here to know when he's about to be done. And then red will input beta and launch blue to something a little crazy, which is stripping off sulfur atoms one by one from the large sulfur ring and then bonding them into the small sulfur rings. So that's a very difficult way to approach the level, but yeah, he made it work. So this is a 3-count flip-flop to rotate the large sulfur ring and have it ready for handling. And then we have a sulfur sensor here to have blue make the last bond, and red was diverted, helps making the last bond here, and then counts to 3, and after 3 of the small sulfur rings, red goes back to making the upscaling part. So yeah, that's pretty crazy, very difficult approach. I'm rather impressed by how well he made it work. Here we have Andy with the only 3-bonder solution. Let's see what he does. He's doing a sort of a swap between osmium and sulfur. See here, stripped off an osmium and a sulfur, bonded them together, rotate 180 degrees, and then putting each atom back in the ring where it was. So basically an in-place swap between osmium and sulfur. And so after a while a small sulfur ring is made, and red will know that with the chemical sensor here. And when that happens, red will be able to output the small sulfur ring, and then a simple 3-count flip-flop to know when to input another beta and continue with the solution. In blue's handling, there's something clever here. This is a conditional grab. It only grabs after 3 swaps have been made here to be able to rotate and start again with the rest of the structure. So another very clever algorithm, very unique in the way that it uses 3 bonders. I actually tried for 3 bonders for a while and thought it couldn't work at all, but Andy made it, and so I really like this solution for that reason. Of course, it's pretty slow, and that's why we have super speed after the first. There. I forgot to mention that Andy's solution gets him a style point with the swapping algorithm, and this solution by Pentapig also gets style points, 2 actually, and you'll see why. He's inputting the small osmium ring inside the large sulfur ring, will unbond the inner ring and bond each atom to the outer ring. It takes 2 passes, and then there's another kind of swapping that occurs by unbonding the corners and rotating them. And so the way this works is there are osmium sensors here and here, and as long as there's an osmium in the center, in the inner ring, here the sensor gets triggered, red and blue continue swapping, and then when it's done, they exit the swapping loop and can keep going with rebonding the inner ring and unbonding from the outer ring. And so you'll notice on this pass, red and blue are 2 spaces apart, and so with this blue loop it allows rebonding inner ring and unbonding from the outer ring. It takes 2 passes. Output, and then at the beginning red and blue are 1 space apart here, and so with the same blue loop that allows unbonding inner ring and bonding it to the outer ring. So Very clever algorithm. Fortunately it's a bit complicated, so it's a bit symbol heavy too, but yeah, it's a really nice one, and well deserved 2 style points by Pentapic. And I wanted to show the output condition for the large osmium ring in a second. So it's a simple flip-flop counter that Blue has just gone through to input a new beta and output the osmium ring. In 15th place we have Brookios, and here we start seeing both Waldos cooperating in their respective tasks. So Red is handling most of the upscaling part, but Blue is here going through a, well, sort of a timing Waldo loop, hitting bond plus and bond minus when needed to help make the T-shaped osmium ring, as we've seen before. When that's done, both Waldos hit the triggered osmium sensor. Blue exits the timing loop, and Red will come on its own timing loop to help reshape the large sulfur ring. And then when that's done, Red exits the timing loop and will help detach the small sulfur rings, those little boxes, and then bring them to output omega and output them. And then there's a simple flip-flop counter for Blue to exit and for Red to do the same and go back to the beginning. So it's a I tried to see if that could be taken away, or perhaps, but every time there's a timing Waldo involved, it usually takes a lot of work to change anything in the solution, and so I always like them because yeah, it's really complicated and usually a ton of work went into them, so I always appreciate that. Congratulations Brookios for a pretty neat solution. Here we have Sluts with a 74 symbol solution. He treated each part of the puzzle separately, with Red handling the upscaling and Blue handling the downscaling. As you see, Red is making the large osmium ring, while Blue is sitting on the osmium sensor waiting to start its job. He's making an unusual shape for the large osmium ring. See, that's a 3-count flip-flop to know when it's done. And there we have a 4x3 box for the large osmium ring. And here Blue starts and Red waits on the sulfur sensor to go back to its own loop. For sulfur, he breaks off a large corner and rotates it twice to make the L-shaped, as we've seen before. Makes all the bonds, and then we'll detach the small sulfur rings one by one and bring them over to the output. And then a simple flip-flop counter to know when it's done. And Blue will trigger the sulfur sensor and go back to waiting for Red to be finished. So, pretty standard approach, works really well. However, there was a small mistake. These flip-flops can be primed, and that would bring the symbol count to 72. But oh well. Overall, very nice solution by Sluts. Here we have Neuchar with a 73 symbol solution. He also has Red and Blue doing their own things. So Red is making a T-shaped large osmium ring, as we've seen before, using a simple 3-count flip-flop to know when he's done. And then Red will sit on a sink, and Blue is going through a very long logic of stripping off sulfur atoms one by one and making small sulfur rings out of them. So we've seen that before with Chaboka's solution, This is much lower on the symbol count. I didn't think such an approach could be so low on symbols, so congratulations for achieving that. I wanted to show off there's a clever conditional grab here that only gets triggered when that column is done. So you see next pass, blue will grab this, rotate it, and we'll be able to continue handling the sulfur. And so when a small sulfur ring is done, the sulfur sensor here gets triggered, and blue will be able to pick up the box, finish bonding it, and then on the second pass output it. And here we have a simple free-count flip-flop to know when it's done. So yeah, for the strategy used, it's a very low symbol count. Congratulations to NoHR. And well, also I thought this could be improved easily. Turns out it wasn't easy at all, and the only reason I'm showing this is because I know IE will absolutely love this nonsense. It works. I don't know how, but it does. In 12th place we have Zig with this 73 symbol solution. He has blue working on the upscaling part with no help from red. This is a free count flip-flop to know when the work is done. That's the T shape, and then osmium sensor to send red on the downscaling part. And here blue and red will work in tandem, doing something really cool. If you unbond this, rotate the box, there you have the small sulfur ring made. And so that's the strategy used by Zig. We'll see it again right here with this shape, 4 sulfurs in an L shape. Unbond one, rebond it after rotation, and that's done. And so the way this works, you'll have leftovers, 2 sticks of 2 sulfurs that you can rebond in the same L shape and reuse the same loop to get the last of the small sulfur rings. So that's a very clever algorithm. And then there's a free count here and here for each waldo to know when they're done. Very nice, especially for the sulfur handling part. Here we have Flexo with the first solution under 70 symbols. He has red and blue working separately. Red is making an L-shaped osmium ring. That's a first. He uses the osmium sensor here to know when he's done, and then starts unbonding all these excess bonds and drops off the large osmium ring here. And blue will handle the sulfur, breaking off the large corner as we've seen before, rotating it twice and making the L-shaped. And the way this works, in this single line he'll be making all the bonds necessary for all the sulfur rings, and then with the bonders half sitting on output omega, that means he can drop off some of the small sulfur rings only by unbonding them and not dropping them off. Only the last one is dropped off in output omega. So that saves quite a few symbols. Very nice solution. Let's see it again. Large osmium ring, and then the sulfur, breaking off half, making the L, and dropping off everything. It's also pretty fast the way this is set up, so that's very nice. However, it could have been just a little bit faster if you go up here. There, it changes practically nothing, but it's about 30 or so cycles faster. Congratulations to Flexo. In 10th place we have RP0 with this 69 symbol solution. he has both Waldos working in tandem. So red is breaking off the large corner and making the L shape, and then blue will go through this loop twice, handling all of the bonding and unbonding that needs to be done to form a small sulfur ring and then drop it off straight away. So on the sulfur handling, really efficient, really fast. This is a under 1,000 cycle solution. And then for the osmium, blue handles the transport and red does the bonding and unbonding. And together the Waldos make an L-shaped osmium ring, as we see here. Let's see that again. Sulfur, really quick, really efficient. And then the osmium with blue making the transport and red making the bonds and unbonding. Really nice solution by RP0. As I said, it's pretty fast. However, you don't need that, you don't need this, and that flip-flop can be primed, and you have to tweak this there. You would have scored better than me if you had done this. Sorry. This was my solution for 67 symbols. I have red doing the upscaling part on its own, doing an L-shaped osmium ring. Like Flexo and RP0 before me, I have the bonders sitting half over output omega. However, here they're vertical. I can see now after watching the other solutions that horizontal would have probably been easier to handle, but oh well. And then blue will handle most of the sulfur, breaking off a large corner, doing a very close rotation here. And then red helps only with these 3 bonds here, and blue finishes off the work. So as Flexo and RP0, I drop off the first 2 of the small sulfur rings by unbonding, and then drop off the last one the normal way. In 8th position we have Darius 1 with this 65 symbol solution. He has both Waldos doing most of their work. Red is handling the sulfur with something similar to what Zig did, making a box out of unbonding a single atom, and then sticking 2 boxes together and unbonding them. Here is the only help blue provides, helping unbonding one of the small sulfur rings. And blue will start handling osmium and make an L-shaped osmium ring, as we see here, and osmium sensor to know when to output. And this bond minus and this bond plus is the help from red is making the large osmium ring. Let's see it again. It's a pretty fast solution, under 1,000 cycles. And even though red is going over this bond plus several times, it does not help red in making the osmium ring. In 7th place we have Tough Thought with the best implementation of the stripping off sulfurs one by one method. Each Waldo is doing its own thing, so some priming first. Red is doing the upscaling, dropping off the first box here, and then there's the osmium sensors that's triggered, allows unbonding the inner part of the L shape that's being formed, and then second pass through the osmium sensor, the flip-flop indicates that it's time to drop an output, and then blue starts doing its own thing. I'll speed it up for a while because it's easier to explain when there's already something on the board. So blue, as long as there's a sulfur atom here, blue will keep doing its logic, which is grabbing what's left of the large ring, unbonding a single atom, leaving it on the top bonder, moving the rest of the ring out of the way, grabbing whatever's currently on the board and bringing it to the bonders to bond the new atom. So we'll see a bit more of that. Here. And then when blue grabs the last row, it triggers this sensor and rotates the rest of the molecule, and so this can be moved out of the way. And then we'll have the first small sulfur ring formed right here. And so it gets grabbed with this command here. Dropped, last bond, and output. And as I said, as long as there's something here, it will keep doing its logic. So it's insane. It's very impressive. The symbol count is very, very low for what it's doing, and yeah, I can't imagine how long it must have taken to get that mess working. So yeah, congratulations, Staffat. That's a really, really great solution. And also I'm really, really glad that I have super speed, because this is about 9,000 cycles long. So yeah, I'm not showing a second pass, sorry. Cactus beats Staffat on cycles. He has red doing basically the same thing, dropping off the first box, and then after a rotate, using the osmium sensor to unbond the inner part of the L shape, and on the second time through, flip-flop to output. And so his solution does 2 osmiums in a row, but only at the beginning, but it still saves some cycles. So we can see that again. Second pass through, osmium sensor, unbond, flip-flop to output. And then for the downscaling, blue grabs the large sulfur ring, unbonds the corner, rotates it very close, no collisions, then makes the L shape, and here red is the one that grabs and reuses part of its loop to make the inner bonds and rotate. And then the sulfur sensor is triggered and red knows to wait for blue to finish. So red and blue working really well together. Here blue is unbonding the small sulfur rings, and we'll see, as long as there's something sitting on the sensor, blue will keep doing its unbonding and dropping routine. So that's a very, very nice solution, especially for the downscaling part. And there's a great cooperation between the Waldos, and it helps keeping the symbol count low. I'll show downscaling part one more time. Cutting everything, making the L, and here red does a lot of the job, while blue just sits. Yeah, very nice. Congratulations to Cactus. Entering the top 5, we have Spoparen with the first solution under 60 symbols. He has each Waldo doing basically its own thing. Red is making a T-shaped osmium ring, as we haven't seen in a while, and it uses a simple free-count flip-flop to know when it's done. That's it. And then it inputs a beta, and blue starts doing its own thing. And blue's loop is really what keeps the symbol count low. It's a similar idea to what Zig and Darius 1 did, making the boxes one by one and keeping the rest of the ring intact. But he managed to basically handle 3 different cases with the same loop, and yeah, that's really cool. I'll show it again the next time. So blue is going around 3 times, no flip-flop counter or anything, only red hits this thing 3 times and then knows to exit the loop with the sulfur sensor and helps making the last bond on the last of the small sulfur rings. And then blue is sitting on the sink waiting for red to input a new beta. I'll show that again. So on the first pass, something here is dropped, no ring is made. First ring gets made here and then dropped, and then on the second pass there's one ring almost being made here. The second one is made same as the first, and so the third only needs one more bond, and that's the one red provides. Okay. Excellent blue loop, and congratulations to Spopa. In 4th place we have Biggie Mac with the 56 symbol solution. He has each Waldo doing its own thing, and red does basically the same thing as Cactus and Tot, dropping off the first box here, and then there's this rotate, osmium sensor, unbound combo to unbound the inner part of the L-shaped osmium ring that it's making. So very efficient way, very low symbols. And then blue will be doing something very interesting with the sulfur. He unbounds in half and makes this huge beast, which makes a box in the middle, and then, similar to what Zig did, unbounds the lone atom here and gets it in the corner to make the last box. Very clever handling of the original molecule, and very nice to see in motion. You don't get to see that molecule shape every day. I'll show it again. So it's cut in halves and reassembled in the middle. First pass, unbonding this and getting it in the corner, making the last bond, unbonding, and then second pass doing the same thing, only this time you hit this flip-flop, and that's how blue knows to drop the last box and output. So, very good solution. Congratulations, Biggie, on your well-deserved top 5 spot. In 3rd place we have Giggle with a very impressive solution that's all timing based, and yeah, really crazy that it works in my opinion. So you have red and blue working together the whole way, making a T-shaped osmium ring, unbonding, bonding, everything is needed, dropping it, outputting, and then the sulfur handling is pretty standard. Well, only what I mean by that is that it makes an L-shaped intermediate product, and then unbonds the small boxes one by one, and this is the same loop that gets run through 3 times with a 3 count flip-flop here. This is a timing issue, and so I'll show it again, but more slowly this time, because I'm not sure how to convey how crazy the timing is while it's still running. So you have red inputting, blue grabbing on the same cycle. Not much happens here. Then new alpha gets bonded straight away. That bond, which is needed in the end product, is made. New alpha gets bonded, unbonding those that we don't need, and osmium sensor is triggered, so red is diverted here, and we'll do, yeah, there was bond plus, bond minus that cancel each other because we need that bond, and then unbonding those two here, and that's it for the T-shaped. The osmium sensor is still triggered, and then blue inputs the beta and red grabs it the next cycle. So all this part here is, yeah, it's, I don't know what to say. It's insane. And then blue sits on this timing bit, doing the bond pluses when needed. It's not as crazy as the beginning, but it's still pretty cool the way it works. Yeah, I love it. Congrats, Chichiko. In second place we have Resumes with another timing-based solution, also extremely impressive at 49 symbols. Red does most of the handling, only bond minus from blue here. Sorry, red does most of the handling for the osmium, making a T-shape. Then our help from blue here, unbonding that one. Then red inputs a beta and will sit on this timing loop until blue is finished handling all of the sulfur. And blue has been running all around this loop since the beginning, since there are no sinks. With a beta it makes an L-shape intermediate product. Some bonding and unbonding occurs with red. Here we'll have red bond, then blue unbond a finished box, drop it, and then output it here. And blue continues, grabs, rotates, ends up in exactly the same position as before. Bond here by red, unbond by blue, drop, and then output. So the next one is a bit longer because the grab drops. And final one. And here red will finally hit the sulfur sensor and go back to the main loop. And of course blue was kept in sync and does that bond minus as it did in the first loop. There are a few close calls with the sulfur sensor in red that I wanted to show off. So the first one is here, one cycle away from red exiting, and then every other is when blue gets that part down. Here, one cycle again, and yeah, it's the same thing here, one cycle away from red being out of the timing loop. Very impressive. I'll let it finish, and congratulations to Resumes. Though, yeah, as blue runs around for a while doing nothing, it's pretty slow, so I'll be using super speed again. And in first place with 47 symbols we have Counterpoint, who managed to make a Command Waldo solution. Since there are no double bonds to make in any of the products, this was a conceivable approach. So he inputs a sulfur, makes an L shape by rotating that cut corner, makes all the bonds, sulfur sensor keeps him in the bonding loop. The first ring is done, outputted, and then sulfur sensor isn't triggered here, so blue exits the bonding loop, drops the third box, and starts inputting osmium. Sulfur is outputted here and gets out of the way. Not much happens the first pass here, only a little unbonding here with this very clever back and forth. Second piece gets added. Unbonding here, then here, and then blue goes through this free count flip-flop a second time, and so on the third time it will know that it's done and output the L-shaped osmium ring. That is going to be finished right here. So very, very impressive solution. I really didn't think a command Waldo approach could work, and I'm really glad to see it done. Just show it again a bit faster. And it's really all this works because of the clever sensor use. This is the main loop that gets used 6 or 7 times, I'm not sure. And the sensor is what makes this work, really. So congratulations to Counterpoint for figuring that out and making a very, very good solution. And also on your first win.